Welcome to Agent of Laughter. Each week, we bring you powerful conversations with authors, entrepreneurs, and everyday heroes who've turned challenge into joy and mindset into success. Here's your host, the Agent of Laughter himself, Ramin.
Welcome to Agent of Laughter. This is Ramin, the Agent of Laughter. We talk about positive mindset and spread joy, one story at a time. Today's guest is Mitch Slater, manager and director of UBS, and he hosted over 100 podcasts under his belt. How are you, Mitch?
I'm great. I'm real happy to be here with you. And this is my first podcast after having some pretty major surgery in June. So it feels good to get back into the game and kind of get my life back, which I'm real happy for.
Good news. You know, I always says, surround yourself with somebody smarter than you. And you are much smarter than me.
You know what? No one's smarter than anybody. It's all a life experience. You know, people, certain life experiences definitely make you smarter. You learn from your failures as well as your successes. And
Yes.
one of the things I love about what I'm doing and really what I've done for so many years is I get to meet so many different people every single day and, just learn one little thing here and there. And that's how you get smarter. It certainly wasn't, for me, had anything to do with school and SATs and all that other junk that, they threw at you as a kid. So,
Yeah, we have to learn something new every day.
yeah.
And have experience.
I've always lived by the Bruce Springsteen, because I'm a big Bruce Springsteen fan, but I've always lived by his quote, which is from his song No Surrender, that he learned more from a 3-minute record than he ever learned in school. And it's true. I probably learned more from the Beatles growing up, as well as so many other musicians that and Broadway shows that I went to that helped me later in life.
What is your state of mind for success?
I think success is a moving target. So when I look at success, I look at success through every one of my decades. And now that I'm in my 6th decade, I guess, I don't know if your 60s is considered your 6th or 7th, but I'll call it my 6th. I think I look at it differently. When you're a little kid and you're growing up, I mean, success is just feeling, being part of a family where there's a lot of love. And I was very fortunate to, have a really wonderful childhood, great parents, great siblings, not so great friends growing up, and not exactly the best experiences in some of the earlier years. But as I got to my college age years, for me, success was finding a job. I mean, it was all about figuring out what career path I was going to go into, which initially wanted to be acting, kind of morphed into broadcasting. And then at 21 years old, to be offered a job working for the great Larry King, that felt like success. I would have paid him to do that. And I learned so much from that experience, which ultimately led me within 10 years to be in a totally different world as a financial advisor. And that took me a while to figure out what success was, because, they throw money at you and people are giving you money to manage. And, you have a scorecard every day, what the stock market's doing, what your client's portfolio is doing. But ultimately, I realized that the success was all about the return I was getting on the relationships. And the more relationships that I had, that is where I felt success. And certainly now, as my kids are older and both going to be getting married in the next year or two, it's a whole different thing. And seeing happiness within your family and your children, and unfortunately losing the last of my parents 2 years ago, that puts things in a very different lens for you. and then ultimately finding out of nowhere that you have a valve that needs to be replaced. And lucky enough, it's figured out, and it's 2025, and success for me was trying to be positive throughout the process. And, with some exceptions, I think I did a pretty good job because I knew I had a lot of living to do. And so,
Yes.
anyway, a long answer to your question is I think it differs at every age. But for me, success right now is having happy kids, healthy kids, a happy relationship, and good friends, and most importantly, really being able to help other people with whatever wisdom or expertise that I've gathered over the years.
Yes, I think success is very important, especially in your work. You have good relationship with everyone, and they also teach you and support you.
Oh my God, absolutely. Because that's, you realize as you grow through your career as a financial advisor, you first start out, anybody with a heartbeat is you're happy to have as a client. And they're not always necessarily the nicest people and people you want to hang out with. But for me, as I became developed these relationships and people, obviously there was a mutual trust, and I got to know their kids and their families. That felt successful, a lot more successful for me than making one recommendation and having somebody make a lot of money. Because as my mother used to say, I never quite understood it, but money is round. But I think it's very true, and things just, go in different cycles. So,
Yeah. Yes.
but real relationships and friends and family, and the opportunity to create, which is a whole other thing for me, is a big part of it.
Very nice. You, we talk about happiness in my show, and
Mhm.
uh, what is make you happy in your life, like daily routine or hobby? What do you like to do in your life?
Well, I love that what you do, and I know that you talk a lot about laughter and happiness. And to me, life isn't worth living without happiness. And I think you always have to, first of all, you have to laugh at yourself. If you can't laugh at yourself, it's kind of like loving yourself. If you can't love yourself, you really can't love others. I think if you can't laugh at yourself, you can't survive in a world that is absolutely insane. And unfortunately, I feel like I'm living through the worst part of my life as far as where the world is at today. And I'm not getting political. None of that really is important. It's just the fact that I could find things to laugh at. Whether I was a kid, whether it was Monty Python and everything British that I had an aunt that exposed me to being able to take that comedy and do routines at children's hospitals to make kids who were sick laugh, to be able to just tell jokes. And my brother and I kind of go back and forth to see who can tell the best puns. I think we probably got that from our dad. So, honestly, I love the name of your show, Agent of Laughter, because I can't think of
Thank
a
you.
better agent that there could be in a world, in such a confused world. And it's a silly thing, but I go back to a show that I was in as a kid, You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, which I saw on Broadway and then was in it in schools and community, and I always seemed to play Charlie Brown, which fit me very well as a kid. And there was a song in there called Happiness, and there's just certain lines in that song. I haven't thought about this in years, but like, happiness is daytime and nighttime, evenings too, and happiness is you know everyone and everywhere at all that's loved by you. And it's just a simple song that was written by a great playwright at the time. But I think everybody defines happiness differently.
Yes.
And yes, Am I happy when I'm financially stable? Am I happy when I can take a nice trip with my family? Am I happy when I can eat a pint of my favorite ice cream and not feel guilty about it or whatever, or enjoy my favorite bourbon?
Guilty pleasure.
Yeah, it's pleasure, but
Yeah.
the older you get, I think you find happiness in other ways that you would have never thought of earlier. I think it's more and more important the older you get.
Yes. You are more grateful, for everything.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
you're probably somewhat similar in age and remember the magazine Reader's Digest, but they always used to have a little thing in the magazine, to about getting people to laugh and, having a section in that magazine, on things that were funny and you have to laugh. I mean, if I can't laugh every single day, including the 6 days in the hospital after they opened me up and went in there and broke my sternum and put in a new valve, um, I walked into that hospital and first of all, if you've ever been through an experience like this, you kind of have to, you know, forget all of your humility at the door because you're in the arms of doctors and nurses and nothing else matters and and I love when people can find a really awkward situation, and this is going to sound really weird, but it just I'm thinking about a lot of this now. I get in there in the hospital on the first day, and they said, "Well, we have to shave you." I figured, oh, they're gonna, just give me a good shave before the surgery. No, no, that's not what they meant. And in walks this woman, and explained what she had to do, and wasn't something that was on my bucket list. But she did it with laughter. And I thought that was great. And we laughed about all of it. And I remember thinking, my God, here is this incredibly awkward situation that I could, really be upset about or nervous or humble or whatever is involved with that. But here's this wonderful nurse who does this every day. And she got laughter out of me and and
Yeah.
and it
His
helped
sense of
me with,
humor.
yeah, the confidence that
Yeah.
just a little bit of laughter. And I tried each day with a certain nurse would say something or I'd tell them something funny. They're probably sick of me and heard every joke in the world, but it helped me. And honestly, your doctor's job is really to fix you. They don't necessarily have to have the best bedside manner. And my surgeon was great with his hands, and the rest didn't matter. But the nurses had me laughing, and that really helped me in such a good way, as did many of my friends throughout the entire experience. I have one very close friend who have known as, my whole life. And his job, and I told him, is to get me laughing. And he'd call me every day and remember a certain thing or talk about a certain thing just to get me laughing, even though it hurt a little bit to laugh. Um, it hurt less not to laugh.
Yes. Friends are the best, especially old friends.
Oh, people
With
that
you,
know you.
always with you. They know you.
Oh, of course they know you. First of all, you can't BS an old friend. They know every trick in the book. They know, what happened and what didn't happen and they know your truth and God, I can't say enough about when you go through anything in your life that is difficult, that's when the rubber hits the road and you find out who your friends are. And for me, one of the really great joys was so many people that I've helped in my new role at UBS, having people start podcasts and videos and help them with LinkedIn. And I traveled a lot earlier this year, all over the country, and getting texts from people and messages throughout the 6 weeks that I've been home, especially the first few weeks, just a little something like, hey, I did another podcast and thank you so much. And I'm thinking about you. I hope you're doing well. And these are people maybe I met for 90 minutes, and I'm like, God, when you can have that effect on other people, boy, does that matter. And of course, the older you get, legacy starts to matter too.
Very nice. Very nice. what do you, what is your code or passage you live by? What is your favorite code?
Well, I'll start off with with humor, because I was a big fan of the Marx Brothers, and Groucho Marx years ago used to say in one of his movies or whatever, he would never join any club that would have him as a member. And it might have been Mel Brooks, but I think it was Groucho Marx, and I always thought that was so true. As like, uh, and I think other than that specifically. Um, I feel that if I had a code right now, it's kindness is contagious, is that it is so important to be kind to people. You don't know what anyone's going through. People didn't know,
Yes, yes.
I'm a very public person, so my social media might have given it away, but in general, you don't know that somebody might have just lost a relative or a friend who's dealing with some difficult situation in their personal life or in their professional life. And it's why to try to be kind to people and you notice that with other people. I happen to live down the street from a literal rock star, the lead singer of the Goo Goo Dolls, a guy named Johnny Resnick, and we've become friends over the last few years. And he's written amazing songs. And he got sober about 15 years ago. We had this whole conversation about what sobriety did to him and how important it is that he's kind to everyone and he's probably the kindest person I think I've ever met. But it is contagious, and I've picked up a little bit of that. And there's other people that I've met over the years, through work, through my family, through my kids, and I'm like, you know what? I don't really have to be a jerk. I don't want to be a jerk. And maybe there were times I was a jerk. I think we all were at one point or another. But I'd like to be remembered as somebody that really, was kind and cared. I am far from perfect. I am, not even in the world of perfection. But if I could be a little bit kinder and help people, um, like I said, it's contagious.
Yes, people remember you always. People remember you. If you do something, people needs or be kind to them. They always mention to you. They always remember you for good thing.
Very, very true. And and I could pick every person, friends in my lives, work colleagues, family members, most family members, some aren't as kind as others, but most are. Um, and I could think about, the one little thing that they did that made a difference. I think about it's a silly thing, but I'm very close with my brother Jeff, who's 7 years older than me, and my sister, who's 10 years older. And each of them, in their own way, have done really acts of kindness for me in my life that I'll never forget. And I was able to pay that forward by doing something that seems so natural to me, and people made a big deal about it. But I had this aunt who's actually the person that got me into theater and music and everything else. And she had never been to England. And she, at 83, got pancreatic cancer with 3 months to live. And I told my parents at the time, my wife and I are taking her on a first class trip to London for 4 days. And they thought, oh my God, she won't go. She won't go. Well, she was sort of in a remission period. Her doctor said, this is the window. And she went. And I don't know if she went just to please me or whatever. But for those 3 or 4 days, watching my Aunt Annette, who had a huge influence in my life, helped me with school, with reading, and honest playing Scrabble, just a lot of fun things that, you know, an aunt or an uncle, someone special can give to you. And to be able to be fortunate enough to fly her over, first class, so she was comfortable, to see Buckingham Palace, to see, the changing of the guard, to actually go and see the Tower of London and go to the shows on the West End. It wasn't easy. She needed to rest. It was difficult. But we got back from that trip and she literally went right to the hospital. It was a Sunday and she passed away the following Thursday.
Wow.
And I I don't mean to talk about it in a bragging way. It only comes up in conversations like this when I think about kind things that people have done to me. And I think when you go through what I just went through, having open heart surgery, it changes everything, how you think about life. And I'm so glad I had the ability to do that. And if I could give any message to people out there, first of all, listen to what you have to say, because laughter is the best medicine. And my God, we need to laugh more in this world because there's just way too many things to be so sad about. Um, but if you can do something kind, whatever it is, I mean, just one thing here and there, it makes a difference, and it also makes you feel better as you get older, yourself.
Yes, I love that. What is your hobby if you're not working? What do you like to do in
Oh,
your free time?
yeah, I I don't sit still. There's an expression of my people called spilkus, and I was born with it. I think you know it.
Yeah.
And so I love music. Music's really my hobby. I play the piano. For me, it is very relaxing. After watching the Billy Joel documentary the other night, I sat down and I basically played his entire songbook. Not
Wow.
nearly as good as Billy Joel, and I certainly can't sing like him. But I get such joy out of that, as well as my Bruce Springsteen world. As there's a picture of Bruce back there, and
Yes,
the
nice.
opportunity to see 300 concerts over 45 years, and through pivoting and connections and a number of different things to become friends with some of the members of the band and actually have incredible experiences, some that included my mom in her 90s. Um, and music is everything. I mean, it's part of my healing. Well, I'm going to go out for a walk after I'm done here for a few miles, and I'll be listening to one of my playlists. So I think music probably is my favorite hobby, because I don't consider doing things with my family a hobby. That just is a normal thing that feels good. Um, but anything involved with the world of music, all kinds of music. I love the blues. I love jazz. There's probably classical would be the least. Although I appreciate that guy Beethoven, Mozart, they're pretty talented.
Yeah.
But music would probably be my biggest hobby.
We have this in common. I also says music is life. Yeah, make you wake, make you excited. When you like the music, that's very joyful.
And that's so true. And there's one example that I think that I could give that everyone can relate to. And I guess I'm old enough. Again, I was very young when President Kennedy was killed in 1963. But what made America come back from that? The Beatles. When the Beatles went on Ed Sullivan 6 months after Kennedy was shot, the funerals, the sadness in this country, they brought joy. They brought this whole new British invasion of music, all of these incredible songs. And as a little kid, being able to experience that, it made such a difference in the long run. And so, I think life has a way of doing that, is that there are these certain moments, after 9/11, for example. I mean, music, when Bruce Springsteen wrote The Rising, I think, and he wrote some songs of hope, and someone literally saw him driving down the Jersey Shore, and Bruce always says hello to people, and they say, "We need you now more than ever, Bruce." And he wrote some songs that I think helped people through that really, really tough time in our history. So yeah, I think historically, music has always been there to solve the problems of life, as is laughter. I mean, that's, you go back to the days of the jesters, right? And the fools in
Yes,
the
yes.
15th and 16th century. And I so see myself as much more of a court jester than anything else if I had to survive in that period.
What is your routine every day? How do you like to start your day?
Um, First of all, waking up is a gift. I never thought about that as much until recently, so I will add that. But my routine is pretty typical. I mean, I do, again, uh, with this situation, it's really been just finding something to make myself feel useful and feel better every day. But in general, I've always felt my mornings are my most productive time. So whether it's exercise, certainly in some way, whether it's walking, whether it's biking, um, I drink decaf coffee, which I know is a joke to most people, but caffeine just made me nuts after years. So I cut that out. But I trained my brain that decaf would work. But really, I think being able to accomplish things in the morning, I think I'm the most productive. Um, so being able to do that and then having some time in the afternoons to really reflect and then finding something every single day that is creative, whether it is today, my creativity is being with you. It is a gift. I thank you so much for that gift.
I love you.
So, whether it's interviewing somebody myself, whether it's speaking to the financial advisor in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and showing them how they could do a podcast or helping them come up with an idea. Um, I know that I was born with genetics that if I wasn't going to be an actor, which I really wanted to be, and I tried, as long as, and I still take acting classes, so I do keep involved, but I could find something creative. And it could be the silliest thing in the world. It really could be. It could be, you know, Wordle, or just something along those lines, but something, certainly to keep the brain going. So those are the best routines. But I think every single day should involve some form of exercise. Mostly, I mean, it's good for the body, obviously, but it's really good for the soul, and
Yeah.
it's good for the endorphins in my head. And I think that to me, not being able to go for a walk or do something that involved some sort of aerobic activity um, is really critical every day. And sleep. Sleep has become
It's
even
very
more
important.
important.
It's very important. Yes. We play game in my show. We choose from one of my books a page. Today I choose from Dictionary of Laughter, Volume 2.
Mhm.
Please choose a page between 1 to 229.
I'm gonna go with, well, I'm turning 65 this year, so 65.
65. Sometimes you have to play your music louder than your laughter with lots of joy and ego. Music.
Now, how amazing is that? I mean,
We talk about music.
we talked about music. Folks, this is not a magic trick. We didn't discuss this before. I just came up with the number 65. And the fact that, that discussed music, um, boy, I don't know what's out there in the
Yeah.
universe, and I don't know what I believe in and what I don't believe in, but I do believe in a saying that my mom always said, which is, you never know. And I think that's a great example of, boy, you never know.
Yeah, I have chapters on my book about music. I have lots of poems about the music.
Oh,
My book.
that's great. That's a beautiful thing. A
Thank you,
wonderful
thank
thing
you.
to share.
That was very funny. That was
Yeah.
very funny. Can you please define time in one sentence?
Well, time really is the only commodity that you can't get back.
You can't get it back.
You just can't get it back. It's also the name of the magazine my wife's written for 30 years. But beside that, um, time, I mean, you can try to get things back in life, but the clock is ticking, and you have to make the most of every second that you have on this in this world. And um, there've been a lot of songs written about time, and I think people relate to that. But I do think it is the one commodity that out there that I think if you gave people, you know, I people get asked a lot, what superpower would you want? And for me, that's, it's really simple. I just want to have more time.
Stop time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stop time. Can you please tell to audience how people can reach you, and if you have any website they can go to, and
Yeah, I like I said, I am probably one of the easiest guys to find. Certainly you can go on my podcast, Financially Speaking with Mitch Slater, which is on Spotify and Apple. It's currently in hiatus, but it is going to be coming back. And I'm also in the process of working on a new podcast having to do with men, women, and money. And I'm also working on one with another financial advisor on leadership. But you can certainly reach me on LinkedIn. That's kind of, I would say that's my favorite neighborhood I've ever spent time in is LinkedIn. I've been there
I
from
know,
day one and
yeah,
I
I see
love
every
it.
day. Yeah.
Facebook and Instagram are kind of fun here and there. And I'm done with X and Twitter and all of that stuff. But I'm easily reached on Google, and also I would tell people to take a look at my YouTube page. It's got a lot of fun things there, including some amazing videos and experiences that I've had in the music world, stuff that private things that people might not have seen before, as well as some family stuff, and certainly my appearances on a number of TV shows and probably one of the things I'm also most proud of on my LinkedIn, on my YouTube page that I would tell people to look at is when Larry King passed away a few years ago, because we were good friends and people knew that, I was contacted by television stations all over the country. And I put together a little video called The King and I, which includes highlights of not just the interviews that I did with Larry, but photos and moments together when I worked for him, which some were captured by 60 Minutes, just coincidentally. And I think I'm very proud of that work. It was just a short, maybe 7 to 8 minute video, but it was a tribute to a man that, you know, certain people in life make a big difference in your lives, right? Certainly your
Yes.
parents and Larry. Larry taught me, I think one of the most important lessons as a 21-year-old is that he never learned anything with his mouth open. He was a great listener and he was curious. And if you can combine listening and curiosity in whatever you do, I think you're going to have a happier life.
That's great. Cool.
I think you're going to laugh more. I think you're just going to, just listen to what people have to say. It matters. Don't just, be prepared. And this is what you're doing very well on your podcast that I noticed, and in the one I heard before, is that you're a very good listener. Like you may have your questions, but you're responding to what people are saying. And people just want to be heard. That's the most important thing. They want to be heard. And the only way you can do that is by listening. So I'm grateful always to my late friend Larry King for teaching me and giving me a chance at 21 years old to work on a show and meet every possible celebrity, athlete, people I would have never had the opportunity to spend 5 minutes with or 10 minutes with, presidents. I was very lucky. I had a pretty good run in my 20s. That was probably, you like to believe every decade's your favorite, but the 20s were pretty incredible for me.
Like I said in the beginning, the show, surround yourself with somebody smarter than you. and you are much smarter than me.
Oh, it's experience, and that's how
Experience.
I am. If you saw my math SATs, trust me, in the history of the state of New Jersey, I still think
Yeah.
I the lowest. And the fact that George Washington University took me in to go to college was a gift. They were desperate for money, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's there's all kinds of smarts, and I think we all find our own ways to take things from here and there. I interviewed a poet a few years ago, and I learned so much in that conversation. I learned so much from some authors and some television stars and the kid who played Eddie Munster, just little things, whatever it was. And that's what's made me wiser. Not everybody agrees with it because some people do think that I talk a little bit too
Communication.
much. So,
Communication.
yeah, communication skills. The best thing anyone can ever do is take an improv class. You need to learn how to get up in front of people and speak. That's, I think, for younger people, it's so critical. I spent a lot of time with my kids, and I think their success at this point, a lot of it is due to the fact that, I wanted them to get past that. They don't have to be the star of the show and be like, crazy dad, but just to have the ability to get up there and improv. That's why I love improv classes, because it forces you to think. You're thrown these things and you have to think about it, and you're in front of people, and you just have to let you have to be humble, and just like I said, when the woman came in to shave me in the hospital, I'm like, okay, bring it on. That's life.
And thank you, Mr. Mitchell Slater, to be amazing guest on my show. This show is my first episode after Josh, and we have so much fun together. And I'm so grateful to have you on my show.
Oh, well, it truly is, an honor to follow Josh, our mutual friend, who is, Josh and I have a lot in common, and I admire his tenacity, and I admire his hard work. And I think the last thing I'd love to leave you with is, because, I do my own research, and you asked a question about love with Josh, and I gave it a lot of thought. Not that my answer is anything spectacular, but I think because of what I've went through, I think it's important that people, if they think about it, love isn't just what holds you close, it's what holds you up. And after going through heart surgery, I didn't survive because of doctors. I survived because of family and friends. And like my good friend, in quotes, Bruce Springsteen said, we took it on together. And, time matters, love matters, kindness matters. But at the end, you've got it nailed, because without laughter, there is no life. So congratulations on this show.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Have a nice day. Thank you.
You too, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Agent of Laughter. Please make sure to subscribe to the show and visit rulesoflaughter.com to check out Ramin's full collection of books. Until next time, keep laughing.